said that we did not need a central bank. That if we did go to a central bank, that's when tyranny was going to overcome this entire nation. That's when the banks are going to take over. They're going to start influencing politics. They're going to start influencing everyone. And what do they do now? They definitely do influence all that. Matter of fact, inside of their nice little purpose and functions book, it says that they actually are designed for the government. I believe it was on page number 5. They play a major role. These components share responsibility for supervising, regulating certain financial institutions' activities and providing banking services to depository institutions and to the federal government. So they are designed as a banking surplus for the government. What I didn't hear in there is that they provide banking for the people.
Towards the end of this video, he states that these central banks were created for the quote-unquote government, which by all rights is a corporation. It's got numerous aspects to it, and that's really the oligarchy, by and large. And there's a lot more to it. But he said it's for the government or for the corporations, not for the people is the point. Nothing is. Nothing's for the people anymore. It's not for the people, by the people in any form or way, and no one is fighting to change that, and no one has since the fucking Civil War. That's a really important point to appreciate. Now, here's something else that does not come up. It should come up, but it doesn't come up. Now, some of you might know what the CIA is here in the States, in America. But do you guys know what SIS is? SIS. That's the British version of it. It came before the CIA. In fact, the CIA is modeled after the SIS. The SIS was created for the explicit purpose of protecting the central bank in the UK. A giant fucking bank. Today, essentially, this is the city. This is the crown. It's got a lot of names, but those are the two major ones that don't fucking come up. It's known as the crown. It's known as the city. It's a banking financial central. And this is the hub. This is the top of the trilateral city-states, pulling all the fucking strings. Follow the money, right? You follow the honey to the bees. Same applies to follow the money and you can figure out who's pulling our strings. But people don't. Because people are lazy, superficial, and fucking stupid. So if you connect the two dots that I painted a muddy picture here. The CIA was created and modeled after the SIS in the same format for the explicit purpose of protecting the central bank here in the States. That's why we have a CIA, part of the alphabet agencies. These things should come up, but they don't fucking come up because people don't research. If you don't understand these things, you're going to be easily taken in by all this just phony, superficial narratives online that people circulate, many of which are rife with propaganda, which means what you're circulating is misleading bullshit. You're circulating propaganda. And that's what people tend to do because most people aren't digging back, skimming off the fat, getting a lot of things wrong more often than they get things right in order to do the right thing. Most people just assume that there's information on the internet and it's been uncorrupted. It's not corrupted. Meanwhile, you and I are living in a disharmonious system in almost every fucking format or any form and way you could possibly think of. I was having a laugh the other day about all the yuppies and this is just one example, all the yuppies that bought into electric cars. During the winter, for one, they don't start. Another point is where those batteries are sourced from is worse than what people are doing in terms of, quote unquote fossil fuels and a bunch of other fucking ways. What was the other thing? Oh, and when you drive around in, pardon me, these little electric cars, you're essentially amplifying the effects of, think of what 5G is. It's a net of energy. Really, it's 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. It's a net of energy. We're building a prison, an electronic prison, crudely speaking. Really, there's more to that because it has to do with magnetism and electricity, which rarely comes up, especially if you hear about the electric universe. A bunch of polarizing horseshit. But back to point. You and I are already, if you live in the city, part of an unnatural grid, so to speak, that is negatively impacting us. It is a disharmonious system. Why would that be? Because the ether does exist. It's been proven to exist. You could look into this, but most people don't, which means that it is impacting us in a negative way or a bad way or however the fuck you want to think of it. But people were sold positive vibes only, polarizing positive vibes only, which is part of a censorship campaign. So here's the bigger point. If we're already in this net of energy of 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G, and you have to build all this shit up because people don't have a fucking clue. The kids driving around in these little electric cars, they're amplifying that. And they're essentially sitting in a microwave the entire time they're sitting in their fucking car. And that's what these yuppies are doing. It's just as good as wearing something over the fucking holes you breathe with. The irony is just how fucked I've been. Yeah, it just makes me laugh. It just makes me laugh. Yeah. I wanted to go into something else having to do with that, but those things are censored online because that is a fucking agenda. Meanwhile, I mean, you wouldn't put a condom over a muffler. Why would you do that? It's fucking stupid. Movement and repose. Yeah, you inhale and you exhale for a reason. It's by design. It doesn't just happen for no fucking reason at all. You're expelling waste above and below. It's how our systems work. It's how our bodies work, and the system that you and I are a part of works. Which is why covering that shit up means you're trapping some of the stuff you don't want. Which means that's gonna fucking bite you in the ass eventually. Especially if you are older. You know how a lot of people were saying, don't kill grandma? Those elderly folks aren't going to last as long doing things like that. And I see a lot of people doing it still. It's a problem. The younger kids are going to keep trucking, for the most part. Keep in mind, they're also eating genetically modified poisons and shit, which is going to expedite deterioration. Your body's going to have a lot more trouble expelling things. There's going to be more mucus and more inflammation in your body. It's going to fuck you up, and that's going to affect your cognitive faculties and a number of other things, all related to your gut and everything else. It's a symbiotic system. That's why we should be fighting to do away with all this crap that I just rattled off. These are just broad steps, if that. And they should come up, and you don't hear them come up. Again, because people react. They don't fucking research. But as always, what the fuck do I know? This is me on TikTok being censored like a motherfucker lately. This is also my 4th account in less than 6 months, because TikTok is the worst of the bunch so far in terms of destroying accounts to promote censorship.